Can board games be scary? As an aesthetic, they're certainly prevalent. You've got the chewy RPG mechanics of the Arkham games that take that beats of Last Night on Earth. Through to the deepening distrust of who goes there. If you're after a specific genre of horror board game, there's plenty for that. Zombie, gothic, slasher, although I don't find any of them actually scary. If you want tension, I'd probably go for the brutal co-op slog that is Captain Sonar, which has a tendency to be a bit... But for me, the closest approximation to actually being in a horror movie is Escape from the Aliens in Outer Space. First thing you'll notice is the title seems at odds with the aesthetic. It's called something you'd expect splashed across a lurid 1950s B-movie poster, but the art itself has this pleasing minimalistic chic to it, mono-coloured characters against a dense black background. Inside the box you will find a set of marker pens that are terrible and should be swapped out with something better. Also a set of cards that carry on the pleasing art but have a strange cloying texture that makes them stick together and impossible to shuffle, as if playing card finish hadn't been perfected 100 years ago. So you're better off sleeving them. Lastly, the player books. Thankfully no nits to be picked here. These contain the 8 maps to choose from, each named after a famous scientist like Fermi and Marconi, which is a nice touch. So what is it? A hidden movement game based aboard an abandoned space station. Half of you are humans desperately scrambling for an ever-decreasing amount of escape pods. The other half aliens looking to tear you apart, and they can move twice as fast. Now no one knows who each other is, but no one is to be trusted, not even one human to another, because they don't need to outrun the aliens, they just need to outrun you. At the start of the game you get your role card, green for human, red for alien. Humans start here and have to get to an escape pod. Aliens start here and want to gobble up all the humans. On your go you secretly pick a square to move to and write it up top. If it's white you're in shadow. If it's grey you risk making a noise and have to draw a card. If that's white you announce silence. If it's green you can announce a noise at any coordinates on the map. But if it's red you have to announce the coordinates you just moved into. Some cards also double as items for the human players to use. Humans can only move one space whilst the aliens up to 2, though you want to be careful. Everyone else is going to be monitoring your movements on their own maps. You don't want to give away what you are or where you are. After a few rounds everyone's maps will tend to look like a spaghetti mess as they try to keep tabs on everyone else and try to detect false leads. Post-game it can be quite fun to share each other's work and see how wrong you were. If you as a human do make it to an escape pod, your troubles don't end there. You have to draw from a deck, 4 green and 1 red. If it's green, congratulations, you've escaped the doomed station and the rest of the humans have one less exit option. But if it's red, not only is your escape pod malfunctions, but now everybody else knows exactly where you are. What I like about Escape is it creates a genuine sense of fear. You never quite know how much peril you're in. Can you afford to make a bolt for the escape pod? Or should you skulk around and double back, throw off your pursuers? I remember one session, I was a few spaces away from victory. Another player, an alien, was bounding down the corridor towards me, 2 spaces at a time. So I played the last equipment card I had, a machine gun, and hit absolutely nothing. He'd played 3 green cards in a row, completely thrown me off, and he was in fact right behind me. It can have a tendency to drag, especially if the aliens aren't aggressive enough. I remember one game that went on for 3 hours because 5 aliens just couldn't find the last human. And as I said already, the components are a little bit cheap. But would I recommend it? Yes. And now for the summary in front of my board game collection. I'd even suggest it fills a niche in your collection that's probably empty. A gateway game for people who actively dislike board games. The small rule set, lack of components, and mechanics reminiscent of Battleship definitely qualify it for gateway status. But the strange look of Escape and the deceptive and spiteful mechanics certainly won't tempt somebody like your mum, unless she's cool, into the scene. But there's already plenty of gateway games for that. What it can do is possibly tempt over somebody who loves their horror movies, or lording it over their mates when they win a hand of poker. That type of audience would probably be put off by the look of Catan or Ticket to Ride, but this, just maybe. So that's why this is a title I like to keep to the more accessible parts of my dank gaming cupboard. Because not only do I enjoy it, I use it as a tool to tempt more people into my favourite hobby.